Hi, this is Meg Lightheart from megalightheart.com. 2 days ago we spoke about capturing everything. Yesterday we spoke about capacity. Today is the beginning where we think about, okay, you've got this massive collection of stuff that you could do. You've got this much capacity, this much capacity, like a tiny test tube of time and some tweezers, and what tasks are you going to put into that tiny bit of capacity that you've got. And that's when you begin to think about how do you make those decisions. And just because something needs to be done doesn't necessarily mean you've got enough capacity, both in terms of time and energy, in order to do it. So there's a real honesty that comes about as you do this, which over time becomes less painful. When you're first doing it, can feel quite painful because you realise how wildly overcommitted you are. So you need to work out what questions you ask yourself as to what you decide to do today and tomorrow, next couple of days. And one question I ask myself is, what's the open loop that most needs closing right now? And I go through my captured list and think about, okay, it's that and that and that. You might ask yourself, what's going to bring me the most energy to make some progress on? What am I going to get in the most trouble for not doing? What has the biggest ramifications? An old coaching client, hi Sarah, said, what's the cold porridge on my list that's only going to get more congealed and colder that I need to get going on? What's the thing that's going to that most fits with the thing I want to make the most progress on in terms of what's aligned with my long-term goals? But whatever way you do that, there needs to be some way of sorting. Like, getting on top of things is a big process of not only deciding what you're going to do, but rejecting or putting off what you're not going to be doing in the next period of time. I think a useful period, and you can begin to sort your list into different buckets, is what needs to be done in the next 2 weeks. Bearing in mind you've looked to your diary for the next 2 weeks, and you've seen what's in your diary, and you've thought about what your energy levels may be like over the next 2 weeks, bearing in mind everything that's going on around you. So you have a small list to go. These are things that are going to happen in the next 2 weeks. These are things that are going to happen some point later than 2 weeks, and that's a rolling 2 weeks, of course. And it's good to have a massive bucket, which is sometime, like beyond the next year, sometime, maybe never, it's a dream, far away. And so that you can park things, but kind of mentally turn off from there being any urgency for you doing them. And you review those lists as much as you can, but the next 2 weeks list becomes the thing that you most pay attention to. Keep looking ahead at what's happening over the next 2 weeks, what your capacity is, what you've got done. You can even predict a little bit of time of how long things are going to take. Bearing in mind, humans, we are notoriously bad at underestimating the amount of time things are going to take, unless they're things that you dread, which sometimes we wildly overestimate the time they're going to take, and when you get to do them they only take 3 minutes, right? And begin to think about, like, there's the possibility of even slotting things into your calendar in a very hazy kind of way. This is today, this is tomorrow, this is the next day. These are things for next week. So you can begin to go, okay, well, that's going to take me 2 or 3 hours. That's going to take me a few minutes. Bearing in mind the honesty that you need to have around transition time, how many surprises might be going on in your day, what your energy levels are like, where your rhythms are, where you're good, where you're not. So that's the next step, is beginning to sort your list into different buckets, and then maybe thinking about when you're going to do them. And of course the part that's most in focus is today, and then slightly less focus but still within view is tomorrow, and then maybe the next day. And then we're thinking about 2 weeks as a timeline where you can safely judge, and then beyond 2 weeks. And the process is often moving things out of the 2-week list, moving things into the 2-week list. And my recommendation is that you always have the master list of where everything's captured, and then you copy things over to the 2-week list, rather than only writing things on the 2-week list, which then means you're beginning to have separate lists. One of the things to get aware of is when you're holding things separately, as new tasks come in, you make sure you capture them, and then being really conscious of what your rhythms are, what you're getting done, what you're not getting done. Are there things that you're putting off, and why are those? Why is that the case? And as you get really conscious, you realise that you probably need to have some courageous conversations. And those courageous conversations are sometimes with you about things that you really thought you were going to get done, but you're not going to get done. And so do you either need to lower your standards, or do you need to face the fact they're not going to happen for a while? Do you need to have courageous conversations with people you've promised things to and you've realised that you're not going to get them done by that time? Or do you need to lower the standards or change the terms of the agreement? And then there also may be conversations if you're in a position to delegate things to people. Do you need to get good at that and be able to give things to someone else to do? If you're in a position to pay professionals, is it time that you delegated some of your work to professionals? If you're in that situation, I know not all of us are. And the thing that you're gaining through capturing and looking at your capacity and then doing a review is you're gaining clarity and control over what you can actually get done. And so you're consciously able to shut off that sense of, oh, I should be doing that, because you've consciously gone, but I'm not. And one of the conversations I used to have with people a lot when I was teaching this kind of thing, and it happens when I'm coaching with people, is people go, oh, well, I'll just find the time that has to be done this week. And I go, okay, let's just look at your calendar and work out when. And they go, well, okay, that's pretty full, but I'll just find some time. I'm like, okay, let's find the time. When are you going to do it? And that loop needs to be exited by going, yeah, it's not going to be happening, or I need to take something else out to put it in, which means I need to have difficult conversations. So those kind of courageous conversations and honesty with yourself, honesty with other people, is actually a really important part of getting on top of things. Tomorrow we'll talk about how much you periodically review what your whole system, so that you're staying on top of it. And then the final day, I want to talk a bit more about procrastination and things that have helped me with procrastination, and finding the style of doing things that really suits you. If you need some help with this, then or this kind of thing about getting clarity in the midst of mess and complexity, go to megalightheart.com and have a look at my coaching packages. If you're not really looking for a coach at the moment, but you've got some steady income and you like to support this kind of work, then go to patreon.com/megalightheart and become a monthly patron. I'd really welcome that. Wherever you're watching this, click like or make a comment or leave a question. I'm really happy to answer anything that's going on for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, then click subscribe so that you hear about new videos when they're coming out. And tomorrow we're going to talk about a broader set of reflection that needs to happen in order to keep this process working over weeks and months and years. I'm Meg Lightheart from megalightheart.com, and I'll see you in the next one.